Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, the Japan trip is over. Spring training is over. Domestic opening day is here. It's right around the corner, about a little over 24 hours away from when we're recording. I'm back in Arizona. It has been a weird month of travel.
Yeah.
I think my body clock is back to normal, although I'm sleeping much later than I normally do. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We can talk about like that for how that has impacted players. I did briefly talk to a couple guys, just to kind of get their feelings of how the trip treated them and how they're feeling before the season started. Mostly relievers. I think that's who it's going to impact the most, the pitchers. And then and we had our final sit down before the season starts with Craig Counsell and got some news from him. I think the biggest piece is Ben Brown is going to open the season in the rotation. He's the team's fifth starter. We kind of prepared fans for maybe Colin Ray being in that role. I think some injuries kind of opened up a spot in the bullpen. We can go through why it makes sense to have Colin Ray in the bullpen at the start, but I think Ben Brown is a fascinating addition to the rotation and has the highest upside of any pitcher this team has outside of Cade Horton, probably, but like the really, really interesting and intriguing arm who could be kind of, if it all clicks, he's the kind of arm that they're missing in this rotation.
I mean, you wrote about this in The Athletic, a good recap of kind of why they did this. What was sort of Brown's reaction? Because I think, everyone who's encountered him has been impressed with his sort of disposition and his analytical approach to things. I'm sure he took the news in stride.
Yeah, in fact, it doesn't sound like he was straight up told that he'd be the fifth starter, at least the way he described it. I asked him, like, how did you get the news and like, how did you take it? He's like, I just kind of did the math and like counted out my days. And it's like, well, I guess I'm going on this day. And then someone followed up. Is like, what was the conversation like? Like, trying to clarify. He's like, no, I just counted out the days and I knew like, okay, this is when I'm going. So it wasn't like, and he wasn't, when I told him, like Counsell said, you're the fifth starter to us, he was like, well, that he's like, it certainly is nice to hear that, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know. I was a little unclear there. I was like, did Counsell not straight up tell him? I guess he knew he was on the team, right? Once Tyson Miller goes on the IL. But yeah, no, he's not. I think he's taking it very, like you said, he's taking it in stride. He's excited for the opportunity. I think he knows what he can bring. Like he's not like, if you like, I've asked him like in different ways over the past month and a half, how do you look at yourself as far as, being that different type of arm in the rotation? And he's well aware of that. He's not going to like defer and say like, no, there are veterans that can do all sorts of different things. Maybe this guy ups his strikeout rate. He's not like trying to pretend like they don't need this type of arm, but he also knows he has areas to grow. I thought that was Counsell's best point or most interesting point. It's like, yeah, he that's what he falls back on. That's what he needs to fall back on when he gets in trouble right now, but he needs to grow in other areas. He basically said like, it's all the other stuff. Like all the other stuff is where he needs to get better. And he's right. Like he's not a finished product. Like this year about as far as the team goes isn't about development, but there's development that needs to be had for Ben Brown over the course of the season.
I think he's a good example of what this team needs, not just stuff wise, but also, I mean, Jed Hoyer alluded to it in his Q&A with John Greenberg, or the first of a two-part Q&A in The Athletic, of they need guys to outperform expectations, their projections, or really, frankly, their track records. And he is probably has a better chance than most to do that again if he stays healthy, right? Like, and going into this training, to me, it felt like Javier Assad had shown enough to where he deserved a spot in the rotation. And then he gets hurt, I think technically before the actual report date. So that kind of creates an opening. And then I was still very much wait and see with Ben Brown's health. I mean, you got him to actually say what happened last year. I mean, it was this mysterious neck injury that kind of cleared up almost as mysteriously. I'm oversimplifying here, but that came and went. And then it's like, okay, if he's healthy, that's super interesting. And I do think too, they're trying to take the best 26, and I think taking both him and Matt Shaw, rather than kind of deferring to like 40-man roster maneuvering in the future, not just defaulting to, okay, if you have an option, you're out. Like they're putting a lot on both of those guys, but Brown, when he's out there and healthy, has shown he can do it. It's just a matter of we haven't seen it yet for a 6-month season.
Yeah, no, it was like, I think it's 55 and a third innings last year in the big leagues. And that was, he didn't pitch in the minors last year because of Justin Steele's injury to start the season. He was called up almost immediately. Right. So I think that's where, when you talk about like needing to stay healthy, if he does stay healthy, like how much can he give you? Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they do things differently than when you and I were growing up watching the game or even starting our careers. Like the way they monitor workloads is much more scientific than he pitched X number of innings last year. That means he can only pitch this many innings this year. They don't do it like that. There's ways that they monitor things, and they can see like, oh, he's like, whether it's how he's working out or whatever, the way they have so many different things that they track and like so many different wearables, right? Like tech wearables that they have that monitor their body, that they know like this guy's getting tired. Look at his arm slot. It's dropping. His velocity is dropping. His breaking ball isn't moving like it should. Whatever it is, they notice these things. And those are signs for them, indicators that this guy we need to pull back on this guy. Right. But that I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on, which is also part of the reason why I thought maybe he doesn't start the season in the rotation, or, you know, they slowly stretch him out in the minors to start the season, whatever. Clearly that the combo of Tyson Miller's injury and I think there's a little sense of urgency in the sense that this is their toughest month, and you may as well put out like, let's see what this guy can do. Can he be a huge part of the team? I mean, it's not crazy to suggest he's going to end up being one of their best. He has the potential to be one of their best pitchers, right? He has that potential. I don't know if he'll reach that. Certainly not this season. I don't know. But you can't rule it out. Like you said, like, you need guys to overperform or outperform projections, and frankly, like good teams have young players step up every year. Good. If you're a good team, you have young players step up. Patrick, let's quickly take a break before we touch on some other roster moves that were made before the season has started.
This year, there's nothing holding you back from loving your hair again. Let Nutrafol target the key root causes of your thinning hair and help you grow stronger, healthier strands from within.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescriptions required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%.
Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code FOUL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL.
All right, Patrick. One other move. Well, yeah, you know, we knew it was coming, but Brad Keller made the team. It's one of those things where you come into camp, you see this guy doing well, or you hear rumors about this guy having good side sessions,
Yeah.
I always try and take that stuff with a grain of salt, right? But I had like it was interesting enough that when you see a guy throwing 97, 98 in his first relief appearance, you're like, huh, that's interesting. What can he be? And then immediately the manager says, no, it's worth asking that question. So it kind of alerts you to like, okay, this is they're taking this seriously. This isn't a and Counsell's good about that, right? He'll
He very grudgingly acknowledges that you asked a good question. Is that how it unfolded?
Yeah. He'll tell you straight up if like you're off base, like no, you're taking that too far, or I wouldn't read too much into that, right? He's good about that, and he didn't poo-poo it with Brad Keller, and sure enough, here he is on the roster. He's not Ben Brown X factor, but in a bullpen where we just don't, I like the depth. I like that they've added a lot of guys. You're always a little worried about a bullpen, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm always like who's gonna take a step back this year, who's gonna show their age, whatever it may be. It's just hard to know when it comes to a bullpen, and Brad Keller could, like, as weird as it sounds, he could be that guy that kind of be the one that steps up and kind of carries the load at a certain point. That's how interesting he is.
And he might have to be that guy, right? I mean, just knowing how volatile bullpens are in general. And I think, we've written this and it's true. Like the group is deeper than it's been in years past. It's more established, but still, like, let's see them with a lead, right? And let's see how, like, it looks after the first week, after the first homestand, after like the toughest month in baseball, according to, whatever win percentage from last year. I like having Ryan Presley back there. I mean, I think he's probably gonna have some struggles, right? Like he's gotten older, like he's not quite, what Aroldis Chapman was or what Wade Davis was when they had that run there of kind of great established closers. But I think he brings just an organizing force that they did not have the last couple Aprils. And, we'll see what Porter Hodge can do after a very good rookie season. Julian Merriweather, if healthy, can be dominant. And then, I mean, this comes back to Craig Counsell, right? Like he's got to push the right buttons here. And I know it's always a group, collaborative decision, but he was hired because the Cubs were just constantly frustrated by what the Brewers would do. And part of it was, yes, he did have Devin Williams and Josh Hader, but also like they constantly found guys that we had never heard of or guys that had been discarded elsewhere. And all of a sudden they're pitching in big moments. And so I think that'll be, a fascinating thing to watch unfold. I mean, there's going to be blow-ups. There's going to be blown saves. There's going to be overreactions. But, like, how they piece this together is going to be huge because I don't think this is a team with a lot of margin for error. I mean, Jed Hoyer told that to John Greenberg. They're explicitly saying, we don't have a lot of margin for error, so get the bullpen right.
Yeah, no, they have to hope that this is right. And listen, I know fans are I shouldn't say all of them. There are some people that I see getting worried on Twitter about spring training performances. My default is I don't care about spring training performances. I don't like not the results. If someone's down 4 miles per hour, 2 miles per hour, and it's 2 days to opening day, yeah, I'm gonna be like, huh, what's going on? Is that a second, a third deck thing? You need another deck there to get amped up, especially relievers. You run on adrenaline. You need a closing situation. This year, though, it's especially interesting. Like this is not a normal circumstance that the Cubs are heading into or just experience. Japan was a 9-day trip. Pitchers like 2 weeks before the season starts, the main part of the season, You have 2 regular games, 2 exhibition games. So essentially 2 games for relievers to get in, right?
Right.
That's 2 games in 9 days, when at a point when you're trying to ramp them up to start doing back-to-backs. They've not had back-to-backs. They just had pitch off pitch Saturday and Monday, if I'm remembering correctly, right? I talked to some of these pitchers, asked them how they're doing. They were pretty blunt. My body feels like crap. You know? They're like, but we just got to push through. Like, this isn't unprecedented. Yeah. It's just like our body's gone through a lot. It's an untraditional way to build up for spring for the season, but you just have to push through it. Talking to Tommy Sahadev, they prepped for this. They knew it was going to be kind of like Japan would be a deload for them and not ideal. It's not how you build up for the season with that travel and the lack of throwing. It's partially why Colin Ray stayed back and threw 5 innings on a backfield. Mm-hmm. And they're going to, like, Counsell was very open. He needs to lean on Colin Ray in this first 7 to 10 games, right? What's happening is, so you have bullpen arms that aren't where they normally would be, right? But you have 7 games straight to start the domestic part of the season. No off day because they start in a dome. You have pitchers that would normally be built up to 90, 95 pitches that are at 80, 85 pitches as far as the starters go. And now you have to piece it together over 7 games. How do you fill those innings, right? It's all about how do you get those innings taken care of, right? So Colin Ray is going to be a big part of that. There's going to be a game where he has to pitch like 3 innings, you know, and then 3 days later or 4 days later, he's going to have to do it again. I'm guessing Keller is one of those guys that he's going to be a multi-inning guy. He's going to have to eat some innings. It's going to be interesting to start the season, and I think there may be some panic among fans that see the way some guys pitch. Listen, it's go time, and they have to perform. You can't, like, there can't just be like excuse after excuse. But I think it will be important to keep things in perspective as far as like, when I say that, like, listen, they need to win games. They can't fall in a huge hole. They can't be 8 games under 500 after April. These are things that you just don't want to repeatedly have to like dig yourself out of a hole. Mm. But when I say like take it with a grain of salt, I mean, if reliever X is struggling, DFA isn't the immediate answer. Like, there are certain things you need to look at and understand. It's like, maybe in certain cases you have to be aggressive, but in others you need to kind of take it all in perspective and be like, this guy did not get a normal ramp up. And these are creatures of habit, and their routine has been severely thrown off. I wanted to look back, and I didn't get a chance. I asked Counsell straight up, like, did you look back at the Dodgers and Padres, see how their pitchers kind of handled things that first 2 weeks or first month? And I don't remember. Look, I feel like the Padres did get off to a bad start, or not a great start. I cannot remember if the Dodgers did or not. The Dodgers had a ton of injuries early on, though. I remember that. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think in terms of overreacting, I want to know, like, what's up with the lineup? Is Counsell going to be changing things around? And you had a couple of exchanges on that topic this week in Mesa.
Yeah. So I noticed the lineup was different on Tuesday, and that's basically what I think the lineup is going to be. Shaw was bad. I should have the lineup right here. Shaw was batting 8th, correct? Shaw was batting 8th. Horner was up to 6th, with Swanson 5th. So that's different than what he had in Japan with Shaw 5th, Swanson 6th, PCA and Maya Birdie, I think he went for whatever it was. So Nico's back is the big factor there, and he's shifting the way he's constructing the lineup. He was asked, I was told by our buddy Jordan Bastian that Jordan asked him, look, first of all, Counsell hates lineup questions. He just doesn't like talking about the lineup. It's just like, it's a pet peeve of his. It's very clear. Like, he just thinks, I think the reason is he thinks too much is made of it, which is not something we're unfamiliar with. Like we've been dealing with that since Joe Madden, right? Like Joe Madden thought there was too much made of it. And he was asked straight up, just like, does Nico's return change the way you think about the lineup? And it was a straightforward yes. And that was Counsell's answer. And I think we saw the definitive answer on Tuesday, and we'll probably see it again on Thursday. I had just not really, maybe it was jet lag brain. I don't know. I had not fully processed that. Like I had not thought about, oh, Nico's back. That changes the calculus of how you think about the lineup. It was, I thought it was aggressive to have Shaw at 5. I also don't I just struggle to want to make a big deal out of that for 2 games. And even if he stuck with it for a week or 2 or whatever, even if that was his decision for the season, because for me in a lineup, when you talk about having your best players at the top, it's if you're saying I have my best players in the top 6 and do you have is the 5th best hitter hitting 6th and the 6th best hitter hitting 5th? That's not the end of the world. If you have your best hitter hitting 7th and your 7th best hitter hitting 2nd, now I have some issues, right? You can't have these subpar hitters in the top 3 and then have really good hitters in the bottom 3. That's when the numbers people would freak out. If you're even I think David Ross would do some things that the numbers people didn't agree with exactly, right? But when I talk to them, they're it's one spot difference. It's not that's not the end of the world. Over the course of a season, that doesn't change anything. In theory, you can take the anecdotal evidence and game by game evidence and run with it. And I understand that's normal to do. It's just not how these guys think as far as lineup construction and the big picture.
Yeah, and I think ultimately Matt Shaw better hit a number 5 or 6 hitter more than an 8 or 9 hitter. I mean, that's why he's there.
Comes right back to what we were saying before.
You better hit. There are a lot of reasons, why he's here, but the primary one is that he's hit everywhere he's been. And so, if he's learning on the job defensively, he's got to bring something to the table offensively. So yeah, we'll see how he responds and how he enjoys the lineup banter. If the Cubs get off to a slow start.
I'm gonna have to ask a lineup question on
you gotta just to keep him on guard. Just so we have it for posterity, so we know.
We haven't even bugged him about Ian Happ leading off. It's just not even one question. It's he's getting off scot-free here. All right, Patrick. Domestic opening day, 24 hours away. Fans will be excited for that. We'll see if they can get back on track here, win some games. Like I said in our last episode, getting to 500 after Arizona, that'll be a difficult feat. You got to win 3 of 4 just to get to 500. This is not an easy month. This is not an easy first week. Nothing about this is going to be easy. I think this is going to be one of those summers where there's a lot of stress in that Cubs at Wrigley Field, and with those, hopefully not with the players, but certainly the front office is going to be feeling it because they know how important winning is for 2025. There's a reason Kyle Tucker's on this team and Cam Smith isn't. So, all right, we'll be back with another episode very shortly. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take care.